There comes a moment in every life when the noise gets quiet enough for the truth to speak. Not the polite truth, not the convenient truth, the raw, unsettling, mirror-in-your-face truth, the truth that says, this version of you is not the final draft. And if that thought makes your chest tighten just a little, good. That's not fear. That's recognition. That's the sound of your potential knocking from the inside, tired of being ignored, tired of watching you settle, tired of watching you negotiate with excuses like they're old friends. See, most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they slowly accept a life they never intentionally chose. They drift, they react, they let the world tell them who they are, how far they can go, and what they should expect. And then one day, they wake up exhausted, not from effort, but from regret, from carrying the weight of unused ability, from knowing, deep down, they played it small when they were built for more. But here's the shift. Here's where everything changes. A comeback is not an event, it's a decision. And the most dangerous thing about a real decision is that it rewires your identity. When you decide you're done being average, done being invisible to your own standards, done explaining why you didn't show up as your best self, you don't just change your habits. You change your self-image. And Zig Ziglar said it best, whether he used these words or not, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your self-belief. Right now, somewhere in your past, there's a version of you who had fire in their eyes. They dreamed without permission. They believed without evidence. They didn't need guarantees to start. That version didn't disappear. It just got buried under disappointment, criticism, comfort, and routine. And comfort, let us be honest, is one of the most dangerous drugs on earth. It numbs ambition. It whispers, you're fine, when fine is the enemy of greatness. History doesn't remember the comfortable. It remembers the committed. Edison didn't like the world because it was convenient. He did it because he refused to quit after thousands of failures. Lincoln didn't preserve a nation because he felt confident every day. He did it while battling doubt, depression, and relentless opposition. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination, yet he imagined a world that still shapes childhoods today. These weren't superhumans. They were ordinary people who made an extraordinary choice to keep going when quitting would have been easier. And that's where your comeback begins. Not when the conditions are perfect. Not when the fear disappears. Not when everyone finally believes in you. It begins the moment you decide to stop outsourcing your confidence and start building it from the inside out. Confidence is not loud. It's consistent. It's built in the dark, when nobody's watching, when there's no applause, no likes, no validation. It's built when you do what you said you'd do, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Mindset is not positive thinking. It's disciplined thinking. It's choosing thoughts that move you forward instead of thoughts that keep you stuck. Every day, you're casting votes for the person you're becoming. Every excuse is a vote for the old you. Every act of discipline is a vote for the future you. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Nobody is coming to save you. No one is coming with a perfect plan, a perfect opportunity, or perfect timing. But that's not bad news. That's freedom, because it means the pen is in your hand. Belief is the foundation. Not blind belief, not delusion, but earned belief. The kind that grows when you prove to yourself, over and over, that you can be trusted. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You just need to take the next step with intention. Clarity comes from movement, not from overthinking. Purpose reveals itself when you stop waiting to feel ready and start acting like the person you respect. And make no mistake, the road ahead will demand something from you. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in action. It's choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure. It's waking up early when your bed feels warmer than your dreams. It's saying no to distractions so you can say yes to destiny. And every time you choose discipline, you are telling your future self, I didn't quit on you. This comeback is not about proving people wrong. That's small energy. This is about proving yourself right. About aligning your daily actions with the life you say you want. About becoming so focused, so grounded, so intentional that by 2026, people want to recognize you, not because you changed who you are, but because you finally became who you were always meant to be. And the truth is, you're closer than you think. The fire is still there. The vision is still alive. The only question left is this: are you willing to let go of who you've been, to make room for who you're becoming, because the moment you truly let go of who you've been, you'll feel it. A strange mix of fear and freedom. Fear, because the old identity was familiar, even if it was painful. Freedom, because deep down you always knew it was too small for you. Most people cling to the past not because it was good, but because it's known. The mind prefers a familiar prison over an unfamiliar path, but growth has never lived inside familiarity. Growth lives where certainty dies. Clarity doesn't arrive like a lightning bolt, it's carved out through repetition, through showing up when motivation is nowhere to be found, through doing the work even when the results don't show up immediately. Andrew Carnegie didn't build an empire by chasing comfort. Henry Ford wasn't laughed at because he was wrong, he was laughed at because he was early. And every person who has ever changed their life had to walk through a season where their effort looked foolish to the outside world. That's the price of vision. You see something others don't yet. Vision is not fantasy. Vision is disciplined imagination. It's the ability to see yourself not as you are, but as you could be if you fully committed. And commitment is a dangerous word, because it removes escape routes. It means you stop flirting with the idea of success and start marrying the process. No more half effort. No more waiting for the right mood. You act because it's who you are now. You act because this is your standard. Purpose sharpens when life stops being about you alone. Zig Ziglar believed that you can get everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want, and that truth still stands. Purpose grows when your work becomes service, when your growth creates impact, when your discipline becomes a lighthouse for others still lost in the fog. That doesn't mean you neglect yourself. It means you elevate yourself so your life becomes proof that change is possible. Action is where everything separates. Dreams are cheap. Talk is cheap. Intention without execution is self-deception. Action, imperfect action, is the great separator. You don't need to be fearless. Courage has never meant the absence of fear. Courage means fear doesn't get the final vote. Every day you delay, the cost increases. Every day you move, momentum starts to build. And momentum is powerful. It changes how you see obstacles. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once felt heavy becomes routine. Gratitude grounds you. Not fake gratitude. Not be thankful and do nothing gratitude. Real gratitude fuels hunger. It reminds you how far you've come while demanding you go further. It keeps arrogance away while sharpening appreciation. Gratitude turns setbacks into lessons and lessons into leverage. It's the quiet strength that keeps you steady when praise disappears and criticism gets loud. Adaptability will be tested. The plan won't always work. The market will change. People will disappoint you. Life will throw curveballs without apology. But rigidity breaks. Flexibility survives. The strongest people are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who adjust fast and get back up faster. Resilience is not toughness. It's responsiveness. It's learning to bend without breaking. And you will learn. You'll learn what doesn't work. You'll learn who's really in your corner. You'll learn that failure is not a verdict, it's feedback. Every mistake carries instruction if your ego doesn't block the message. The greatest thinkers, builders, and leaders in history were relentless learners. They read when others slept. They listened when others talked. They stayed curious when others got comfortable. There will be lonely days. Days when the old crowd doesn't understand you anymore, but the new life hasn't fully arrived yet. That in-between space is sacred. That's where identity shifts. That's where discipline replaces motivation. That's where you realize you're no longer chasing approval, you're chasing alignment. And alignment feels different. It's quieter, stronger, unshakable. By the time 2026 arrives, this won't be about a dramatic announcement. It won't be about posting quotes or explaining your journey. The results will speak in a language that needs no translation. Your posture will be different. Your standards will be different. Your conversations will be different. You won't be loud about your growth, because growth doesn't need to announce itself. It shows. This is the comeback. Not loud, not rushed, not fragile. Built brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll look back at this moment and realize this was the turning point. The moment you stopped waiting and started becoming. And becoming is rarely glamorous. It doesn't come with background music or a cheering crowd. It comes with repetition, with quiet mornings and late nights, with saying no when it would be easier to say yes, with choosing progress over popularity. This is where most people fall off, Not because the work is impossible, but because it's invisible. Nobody claps for discipline behind closed doors. Nobody celebrates consistency when there's no spotlight. But that's exactly why it works. Because what's built in silence cannot be shaken by noise. You start to realize something powerful in this phase. You don't need to win every day. You just need to refuse to quit. The world is obsessed with overnight success, but overnight success is a myth sold to people who don't want to pay the real price. Real growth is compounding. Small wins stacking up. One workout, one focused hour, one uncomfortable conversation, one decision to respond instead of react. And over time, those small choices don't just change your results. They change your identity. Identity is everything. You will never outperform the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who tries, you'll always stop short. But when you begin to see yourself as someone who finishes, who shows up, who adapts, who learns, your behavior aligns automatically. You stop negotiating with your potential. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start asking, "What does my standard demand?" Standards create freedom. They remove daily decision fatigue. They simplify life. This is who I am. This is what I do. Period. And don't misunderstand this path. There will be moments when self-doubt creeps in quietly. It won't scream. It will whisper. It will ask if you're really cut out for this. If you're too late, too old, too behind, too different. But those whispers are not truth. They're echoes of an old identity fighting for survival. Doubt always gets louder right before a breakthrough. That's not coincidence. That's resistance. Remember this: discomfort is not danger. It's data. It's information telling you that you're stretching beyond what's familiar. Muscles grow by tearing. Minds expand by being challenged. Character is forged under pressure. If it feels uncomfortable, you're probably on the right path. Comfort never asked anything of you. Growth demands everything, but it gives more in return. The more you commit to this process, the less you'll crave external validation. Praise becomes nice, but unnecessary. Criticism becomes information, not a weapon. You stop being controlled by opinions because you're anchored in purpose. Purpose doesn't need permission. It doesn't ask to be understood. It just moves, quietly, relentlessly. And somewhere along the way, gratitude deepens. Not because life got easy, but because you got stronger. You become grateful for resistance, because resistance revealed your strength. You become grateful for delays, because delays refined your patience. You become grateful for rejection, because rejection redirected you. Gratitude, at this level, isn't passive. It's empowering. It turns every experience into fuel. This version of you doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It doesn't compare timelines. It understands that mastery takes time and shortcuts steal depth. You begin to play the long game. And the long game always favors those who are willing to stay consistent when excitement fades. That's why so few make it. Not because they aren't capable, but because they aren't willing to stay when it gets boring. By now, something fundamental has shifted. You no longer see obstacles as stop signs. They're training grounds. You no longer fear failure. You fear stagnation. You'd rather fall forward than stand still. You'd rather learn the hard way than never learn at all. That mindset alone puts you in a different category. And when people look at you later, they'll say you changed. They'll say you got lucky. They'll say something clicked. They'll never see the thousands of moments where you chose discipline over distraction, where you chose growth over comfort, where you chose the future over the familiar. And that's fine. This journey was never about applause. It was about alignment. Because the real reward isn't the money, the title, or the recognition. The real reward is waking up knowing you kept the promise you made to yourself. Knowing you didn't quit when it got hard. Knowing you became someone you respect. That kind of confidence can't be taken from you. It's earned. And as this comeback continues to take shape, you'll realize it was never about becoming someone new. It was about shedding everything that wasn't you. The fear, the excuses, the self-imposed limits. What remains is clarity, strength, direction. Unrecognizable by 2026 doesn't mean unhuman. It means undeniable. It means when challenges show up, you don't fold, you adjust, you move, you persist. And no matter what comes next, one thing is certain: you are no longer waiting. You are building. And builders see the world differently. They don't ask for permission from circumstances. They don't beg motivation to show up. They understand something most never learn. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. You move first. Energy meets you halfway. Clarity sharpens as you advance. That's the law of momentum, and it never fails those who respect it. At this stage, excuses start to sound foreign to your own ears. You hear them come out of other people's mouths and recognize an old language you no longer speak, not with judgment, with understanding, because you've been there. You know how convincing excuses can sound when you're tired, when you're uncertain, when the path feels long, but you also know what they cost, and you're no longer willing to pay that price. Your environment begins to matter more. What you listen to, what you read, who you give access to your time and attention. You realize focus is your most valuable currency. Every distraction is a withdrawal. Every intentional action is an investment. And like any smart investor, you stop throwing resources at things that don't compound. You protect your mind like it's a mission-critical asset, because it is. There's a quiet confidence that settles in now. Not arrogance, not ego, certainty. The kind that comes from knowing you can handle discomfort, knowing you can learn what you don't yet know, knowing you can endure longer than most. That's when pressure stops intimidating you. Pressure becomes a signal that you're playing at a higher level. Average doesn't feel pressure. Growth does. You start to notice how many people quit right before things get good, right before the skill clicks, right before momentum breaks through, right before the harvest. And this awareness changes how you respond to frustration. Instead of asking, "Why is this so hard?" you ask, "What is this preparing me for?" That question alone turns obstacles into assignments. Resilience becomes instinct. When setbacks hit, you don't dramatize them. You don't personalize them. You don't spiral. You assess. You adjust. You act. Emotion no longer drives the wheel. Values do. And values are steady, even when feelings are chaotic. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's power under control. You also begin to understand patience on a deeper level. Not passive patience. Strategic patience. The kind that keeps working while waiting. The kind that trusts timing without wasting time. You stop forcing outcomes and start focusing on inputs. Excellence becomes your language. Process becomes your home. And results become inevitable. Some days will still be heavy. That doesn't disappear. But heaviness no longer scares you. You've learned that strength isn't built on easy days. It's built on days you'd rather not show up, but you do anyway. Those days are invisible to the world, but they're unforgettable to your future self. Those are the days that separate who you were from who you're becoming. And slowly, subtly, the identity locks in. You don't have to hype yourself up anymore. You don't need constant reminders. This is just how you live now. You do the work. You honor your word. You finish what you start. You respect the process. You trust the long game. This is why the comeback becomes unrecognizable. Not because of one dramatic change, but because of 1,000 small ones stacked with intention. Because of mornings won and nights honored. Because of discipline chosen when excuses were easier. Because of belief reinforced by action, not wishes. And when the moment comes, when someone from your past crosses your path and looks at you a little longer than expected, trying to figure out what changed, you won't need to explain. You won't need to justify. You'll know. You'll know this was built deliberately, patiently, relentlessly, and most importantly, you'll know this isn't the end. It's the standard now. Because once a standard is set, it rewires everything. You don't wake up asking if you're going to give effort today. Effort is assumed. Discipline is automatic. You don't negotiate with the version of yourself that wants comfort, because comfort no longer leads the conversation. Vision does. Purpose does. And when purpose speaks, excuses go silent. You begin to understand why so many people stay stuck. It's not a lack of information. It's a lack of self-command. They know what to do, but they don't do it. They wait to feel inspired. They wait to feel confident. They wait for fear to disappear. But fear doesn't disappear when you wait. It disappears when you walk straight through it. Confidence doesn't come from thinking. It comes from evidence. From action repeated until doubt has no argument left. At this level, you stop romanticizing the past. You respect it, but you don't lie there. Nostalgia becomes a teacher, not a trap. You take the lessons, leave the baggage, and keep moving. You're no longer interested in proving who you were. You're committed to building who you are becoming. That shift alone frees an enormous amount of energy. You also stop underestimating time. Time is not your enemy. Misuse of time is. Every hour you invest intentionally starts working for you. You realize that days don't change lives. Years do. And years are built one disciplined day at a time. That's why consistency beats intensity every single time. Anyone can go hard for a week. Few can stay focused for years. You've chosen which one you want to be. There's a deep calm that comes with this commitment. A steadiness. Chaos still exists around you, but it doesn't live inside you anymore. You've learned to respond instead of react, to pause instead of panic, to choose your next move instead of blaming the last one. Emotional control becomes one of your greatest strengths. And emotional control is real power. You stop chasing everything. You start choosing. Focus narrows. Standards rise. The noise fades. You become comfortable being misunderstood, because you understand yourself. And self-understanding creates direction. Direction creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. It's a cycle, and now you're inside it. You begin to see struggle differently. Struggle isn't proof you're failing. It's proof you're stretching. If it were easy, everyone would do it. If everyone could handle it, it wouldn't be valuable. Pressure is the admission fee for growth, and you've already paid too much to quit now. And then something unexpected happens. You start inspiring without trying. Not through speeches, through behavior. People notice how you move, how you speak, how you don't complain the way you used to, how you don't panic the way you used to, how you don't settle the way you used to. Your discipline becomes louder than your words. Your consistency becomes your reputation. You don't rush success anymore, because you're no longer desperate for it. Desperation fades when self-respect rises. You trust your preparation. You trust your work ethic. You trust your ability to adapt. That trust creates patience. And patience allows you to make better decisions. Clear decisions. Strategic decisions. This is the version of you that doesn't fold under pressure. That doesn't look for shortcuts. That doesn't need validation to keep going. This is the version that understands that setbacks are temporary, but quitting is permanent. That growth is uncomfortable, but regret is unbearable. And when the world tests you again, because it always will, you won't be shocked. You'll be ready. Not because you know exactly what will happen, but because you know who you are. You're someone who shows up, someone who learns, someone who persists. By the time 2026 arrives, the transformation won't be something you announce. It will be something people feel. In your presence, in your confidence, in your calm, in your standards. You won't be chasing opportunities anymore. You'll be attracting them, not through wishful thinking, but through earned credibility. This comeback won't be flashy. It will be solid, built on truth, built on work, built on discipline, built on belief reinforced by action. And when you look in the mirror, you won't see someone who got lucky. You'll see someone who refused to quit. Because refusing to quit does something rare. It changes how you see adversity. What once felt like an attack now feels like an invitation. An invitation to rise, to refine, to reinforce who you've decided to become. You stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to be better. That shift alone separates leaders from followers, builders from spectators, the remembered from the forgotten. You understand now that pain is not the enemy. Avoidance is. Pain has a purpose. It sharpens focus. It exposes weakness. It demands growth. Every scar carries information, and you've learned to read it instead of resenting it. You don't numb yourself anymore. You don't escape into distractions to avoid discomfort. You face it, head on, calm, composed. That's strength. There's a moment, subtle but undeniable, when you realize you trust yourself again. Not because life is perfect, but because you've proven something important. No matter what happens, you will respond with intention. That trust becomes your foundation. When you trust yourself, fear loses leverage. Doubt loses volume. External chaos loses control. You begin to think in decades, not days. You stop chasing quick wins that cost long-term stability. You choose depth over hype, substance over shortcuts. And while others bounce from idea to idea, chasing the next spark, you stay locked in. You understand that mastery is boring to the impatient, but unstoppable to the committed. This is where gratitude evolves again. It's no longer just appreciation for what you have. It's appreciation for who you've become. for the resilience you built, for the discipline you didn't think you had, for the courage you found when excuses ran out. Gratitude becomes confidence's quiet companion. It keeps you grounded without making you small. You also become more selective with your energy. Not cold, not distant, intentional. You don't attend every argument you're invited to. You don't explain your vision to people committed to misunderstanding it. You protect your peace because peace fuels performance. And performance compounds. You realize something else, something powerful. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to like who you are becoming. Approval never built a legacy. Conviction did. History doesn't remember consensus. It remembers courage. And courage is rarely comfortable. There are still moments of uncertainty. That's human. But uncertainty no longer paralyzes you. It activates you. You move anyway. You act anyway. You learn anyway. Because motion creates answers that thinking never will. Action clarifies. Stillness stagnates. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, life begins to respond differently. Not because you demanded it to, but because you changed the way you show up. Opportunities align with preparation. Doors open because you're ready to walk through them. Not hoping, not wishing, ready. This is the kind of growth that can't be faked, can't be rushed, can't be stolen. It's earned. And earned confidence is unbreakable. You don't brag about it. You carry it, quietly, steadily, like someone who knows they belong in the room. By now, you understand the truth. Zig Ziglar built his life teaching, motivation gets you started, but habit keeps you going. Attitude determines altitude, but discipline determines distance. And you've chosen to go far. So when challenges rise, and they will, you won't flinch. You've been training for this. Every early morning, every hard decision, every moment you chose growth over comfort. This isn't luck, this is alignment. And one day, standing in the life you once only imagined, you'll realize the comeback wasn't about proving the world wrong. It was about finally proving yourself right. Unrecognizable, not because you changed your values, but because you lived up to them. Living up to them changes the way you carry yourself. Your walk slows down, not from hesitation, but from certainty. You're no longer rushing to arrive because you understand you're already on the path. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to announce your plans. You've learned that the strongest moves are made quietly, and the loudest results arrive without warning. You stop asking for permission to be who you are. You stop shrinking your goals to make other people comfortable. You stop apologizing for wanting more out of life, because wanting more is not greed. It's responsibility. Responsibility to your gifts. Responsibility to your time. Responsibility to the people who will one day benefit from the best version of you. You see now how dangerous settling really was. How slowly it eroded your standards. How subtly it convinced you that later was guaranteed. Later isn't guaranteed. Tomorrow isn't promised. But right now is real. And right now is enough to make a decision that echoes forward for years. This version of you doesn't live in regret, because regret requires inaction. And inaction is no longer your language. You take ownership, full ownership, of your thoughts, your habits, your direction. Ownership is heavy, but it's empowering. Because once you own it, you can change it. Blame feels lighter, but it keeps you stuck. Ownership builds strength. You've learned to separate emotion from execution. Feelings still exist, but they don't dictate behavior. You act from principle, not impulse. From intention, not reaction. That's why you're calmer under pressure. That's why chaos doesn't pull you off center. You're anchored now. And when exhaustion shows up, as it will, you don't romanticize quitting. You rest with purpose. You recover without retreating. You pause without abandoning the mission. Because rest is a strategy, not an escape. And you've learned the difference. The world still moves fast, still demands attention, still tries to pull you in 1,000 directions. But your focus is sharper now. You know what matters. You know what doesn't. And that clarity saves you years of wasted effort. Focus is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters most, consistently, until it compounds. By now, you've stopped asking if this is worth it. That question belonged to an earlier version of you. Now you understand that becoming who you respect is always worth it. That self-respect is the real currency. Money can be lost. Titles can change. Applause fades. But self-respect stays. And it changes how you walk through every room, every challenge, every opportunity. This is why the comeback becomes undeniable. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you become capable. Capable of handling pressure, capable of learning fast, capable of standing alone if you have to, capable of leading yourself when no one else is watching. And when setbacks still come, because they will, you don't ask, why me? You ask, what now? Forward focused, solution driven, grounded. That mindset alone puts you ahead of most people who get stuck replaying the past. You're no longer chasing the feeling of being motivated. You're driven by something stronger, commitment. Commitment doesn't care about mood. It doesn't need hype. It shows up whether the day feels good or not. And that's why it wins. As 2026 approaches, you won't measure your progress by how loud your success looks. You'll measure it by how solid you feel, by how aligned your actions are with your values, by how much you trust yourself, by how far you've come from the version of you that almost quit. And if someone asks what changed, you might struggle to put it into words. Because the real changes happened internally, long before anything showed up on the outside. You didn't find a shortcut. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't rely on luck. You chose discipline over comfort. You chose clarity over chaos. You chose growth over excuses. You chose the long game. This is what it looks like when someone decides to stop surviving and start building. When someone refuses to be defined by their past and commits to creating their future. When someone understands that greatness isn't something you chase, it's something you practice. And now, there's no going back. Only forward. Forward is where your eyes stay now. Not because you're blind to reality, but because you finally understand it. The past taught, the present builds, the future responds. You're no longer dragging old stories into new chapters. You've learned that healing isn't forgetting what happened, it's refusing to let it dictate what happens next. This version of you doesn't panic when things slow down. You understand seasons. You know when to push and when to prepare, when to execute and when to refine. That patience didn't come from nowhere. It came from discipline practiced long enough to replace impulse, from learning that urgency without direction is just noise. You no longer confuse movement with progress. You've seen people stay busy for years and go nowhere. You've seen effort without focus burn people out. That's why your moves are intentional now. Measured, strategic. You don't waste energy proving yourself. You invest it improving yourself. There's a deep sense of self-leadership that guides you. No one has to push you anymore. No one has to remind you what you're capable of. You've internalized the standard. You hold yourself accountable before the world ever gets the chance to. That's real integrity. Doing the right thing when no one else watching, because you're watching. And you've stopped expecting the road to be fair. Fairness was never promised. Growth was. Strength was. Wisdom was. And you've earned all three by refusing to quit when excuses felt justified. You stopped asking life to understand you and started understanding life. That responsibility matured you faster than comfort ever could. This is where your mindset sharpens into something dangerous in the best way. You stop seeing limits as fixed. You see them as temporary agreements you can renegotiate through effort, through learning, through persistence. That's how ceilings get broken. Not by wishing, but by working until old rules no longer apply. You don't rush the process anymore because you respect it. You know shortcuts rob you of depth, and depth is what sustains success when novelty fades. You're building something that lasts, not something that impresses for a moment. And that's why the foundation matters more than the spotlight. The hunger is still there, but it's calmer now. More controlled. No desperation, just direction. You want more, not to fill a void, but to expand your impact, to stretch your potential, to honor what you were given. That kind of hunger doesn't burn out. It sharpens. You've learned to stand alone when needed, not isolated, but independent. You value collaboration, but you don't rely on approval. You respect opinions, but you don't surrender your vision to them. That balance gives you strength without ego, confidence without arrogance. And when doubt tries to return, as an old habit, it finds no place to sit. You don't argue with it. You outwork it. You let results speak. You let consistency silence questions. Doubt can't survive where action lives. This is why the comeback keeps accelerating. Because you're no longer starting from zero every time. You're starting from experience, from resilience, from self-trust. Every challenge now adds to your momentum instead of draining it. You understand now that success isn't about arrival. It's about alignment, about waking up in integrity with the life you're building, about knowing that today's actions make tomorrow easier, not harder. That understanding changes everything. So when the world looks at you in 2026, they'll see confidence, composure, clarity. They'll call it growth. They'll call it discipline. They'll call it transformation. But you'll know the truth. This was built in moments no one saw, on days no one applauded, through choices no one celebrated. This was earned, and because it was earned, it lasts. You didn't just make a comeback. You became the kind of person who never disappears again.